Good afternoon to our listeners and viewers. I am Mr. Inslee and I am here on our segment today, Academics Matter, with a panel of UWI students who are actually professionals in this topic. Guests were not able to make it to the studio today, but lucky enough, we have them online. They will be speaking about a particular topic regarding a student paper. Please sit back and listen up to hear what they have to say.
Good day to all of our listeners and those viewing. We are from Marker Group 3, Subgroup 5, and today we will be presenting a critical appraisal of a first year student's topic to sentence outline on the impact of visa restrictions in Africa. Our goal is to examine how effectively the student used the cause and effect method of expository writing while also giving recommendations for improving their outline and the overall essay structure. Now, in an effort to establish context before we begin, the cause and effect method can focus on either why something happens or what results from it. In this case, the student's topic emphasizes the impact of visa restrictions, which clearly points to the effect aspect of the method. Essentially, the outline is investigating what happens as a result of visa restrictions, which is outlined by the student as missed economic opportunities for intra-regional trade and for the local service economy, and a reduction of income to the tourism sector. The expository method employed was cause and effect because the student is analyzing the impact of visa restrictions in Africa. This principle reflects that there is a relationship between two events where one event, the cause, triggers the other, the effect. The student clearly explains the relationship between visa restrictions, the cause, and the consequences of that restriction, the effect. This method also promotes organization, helping the student create a flow of ideas showing how visa restrictions limit regional trade, reduce tourism income, and economic activities for the local service economy. The method helps the student understand the core question: what happens as a result of visa restrictions in Africa?
Thank you, Ms. Tanisha. Now we will have Ms. Ronalda to give us some insight into strengths and weaknesses of the topic to sentence outline. Ms. Ronalda, good evening. When it comes to the structure of the topic to sentence outline, the student demonstrates a clear understanding. This is the first strength in their work. Both broad and narrow topics are stated correctly. The three subpoints are ordered logically, moving from regional trade to tourism and then to local services. This is evidence of how the students carefully analyzed and demonstrated how the effects connect to an economic level. However, weaknesses can be noted in the fact that there is a room for improvement in the wording of the topic sentences. Two of the sentences use effect-oriented language, while the final sentence switched to a cause and effect perspective. One might agree that it is only a small shift, but it certainly affects the consistency of the content. Another weakness of the student's work is the lack of uniformity and smoothness. One phrasing style should be used for each point instead of having two styles. An example of this is seen when the student used the phrase one effect, then switched to saying is an outcome of, instead of the phrasing style would have maintained uniformity if the phrase another effect of visa restrictions in Africa was used for all points. Another weakness that is critical is the absence of the thesis statement. This statement is like the brain of the essay. It tells the reader the key idea of the following paragraphs. Therefore, omitting it is a drastic error. It is noted that though the outline has good structure and relevant ideas, it needs more consistent language and stronger connections between the topic sentences and the thesis statement. Thank you, Ms. Ronaldo, for that information. Now, Anton have some interesting recommendations on how the student should revise their work. Mr. Anton?
Recommendations for revision. To strengthen the foundation of this outline, I suggest writing a clear thesis statement as the first step. It's only implied and should be outlined as follows using the TLP approach. Visa restrictions in Africa have led to missed economic opportunities, reduced tourism income, and a decline in the local service economy. By including the thesis statement, the writer establishes the focus of the essay. The topic sentences should all use the same structure and tone. Using the TLP approach of the effect outline, the topic sentences should be restructured as follows. 1. One effect of visa restrictions in Africa is missed economic opportunities. 2. The reduction of income to the tourism sector is another outcome of visa restrictions in Africa. And 3. A consequence of visa restrictions in Africa is a decline in the local service economy. The use of transitional words like as a result, consequently, or this has led to in each paragraph facilitates a smooth transition and enhances the overall cohesiveness of the essay.
Very interesting stuff there, Mr. Anton. Ms. Tanisha, can you suggest what the student's introduction needs in order to be considered excellent and academically appropriate?
To establish the significance and context of the topic, the introduction is where the student can set the tone of the essay. The student should give a brief overview of the importance of travel and regional movement in Africa, mentioning trade, tourism, or educational exchanges. The student can then introduce the problem, how visa restrictions limit these opportunities, which leads to reduced growth and cooperation among African nations. To make it even stronger, the student should include a statistic or a brief example, such as referencing how only a small percentage of African countries allow visa-free travel within the continent. The introductory paragraph should end with a thesis statement that clearly lists the three effects. This gives readers a clear idea of what to expect in the body paragraphs.
Whoa! It's important to understand that an introduction guides readers to understand the context of the topic and so much more you pointed out. Well said, Miss Tanisha. Now, Miss LaFisha, can you please walk us through the application of T's regarding the topic to sentences?
In academic writing, when constructing a cause and effect analysis, the T's framework offers a structured and logical approach for developing paragraphs. T's stand for topic sentence, explanation, evidence, example, and summary. Using this structure helps the writer effectively illustrate the logical connections between cause and their effects. The body paragraph begins with a topic sentence that explicitly states both the cause and its related effect. In this case, visa restrictions act as the cause, while the reduction in income within the tourism sector act as the effect. The topic sentence introduces the focus of the paragraph and orients the reader. Next, provide an explanation that clarifies how specific restrictive measures discourage international tourists from traveling to African destinations. After the explanation, incorporate evidence that supports the claim. For instance, reference data from reputable organizations that show the steady decline in international visitors and tourist revenue for a particular African country. The evidence is followed by an example that reinforces this connection. For example, present statistics from an African nation that has revised its visa policy, resulting in an increase in tourist arrivals and foreign exchange earnings. The paragraph should end with a summary sentence that reinforces the main point, highlighting the implications of visa restrictions on tourist mobility and the financial stability of Africa's tourism sector. By utilizing the TEAS framework, the writer ensures that each part of the paragraph logically follows the previous one, thus maintaining clarity, cohesion, and analytical consistency in demonstrating the relationship between policies and economic outcomes.
Thanks for such a detailed information about TEAS, Ms. LaFisha. Now, to end today's session, Ms. Ronalda will speak on suggestions for the student's conclusion. Ms. Ronalda? The student should restrict the three main effects in a single unifying sentence. Visa restrictions in Africa have resulted in reduced tourism revenue, missed trade opportunities, and slower service sector growth. The student should add a reflective statement showing why these effects matter. If African countries work to ease visa restrictions, regional cooperation and economic growth could significantly improve. The diction should remain formal and factual, not emotional or persuasive. The goal is to leave the reader thinking about the broader implications and remind readers of the key effects and reinforcing the significance of addressing visa restrictions. Thank you all for listening. Until next time. We have come to the end of this discussion. Thanks for watching. You have been viewing Academic Matters. Until next time, bye.